They say the longer you wait to implement button remapping, the more it will hurt to get it working properly. It's been nearly 2.5 years since I started this project, so now seems like a good time to get it done. Here's how I managed. To begin, I wrote a new script that would allow me to store and access the player's preferred key bindings via a static dictionary. See, the benefit of a static dictionary is that I don't need to create an instance of the class in order to access it from all my other scripts. Of course, I do need to ensure that the dictionary contains the data I expect it to have before I access it, so there's a static constructor that will load the player's preferred keybinds using Player Prefs. It's true that Player Prefs can only store ints, floats, and strings, but that's good enough for my purposes. I mean, how hard can it be to convert a dictionary into a JSON string, after all? Not that hard, as it turns out. Once I wrote some serializable wrapper classes, I could convert the dictionary into something that I could save as a JSON string. The next step was even simpler. I just had to find and replace all the magic strings being passed into Unity's old input system API with queries to the static dictionary. I should probably mention that at this point, I hadn't considered migrating to Unity's new input system because the last time I considered it, which was probably many years ago now, I had too much trouble finding a way to check if a given button was being held with Unity's new input system. With the path of least resistance proving to be somewhat elusive, I decided to continue with Unity's old input system. Anyway, I got to work implementing UI in the options menus. I wrote ImageSwapper.cs, a script responsible for swapping the image component's default sprite with the sprite of the expected button. The method to refresh the image was subscribed to an action invoked by other scripts whenever the player saved their settings, thereby ensuring the newly configured button mappings would be reflected in the UI of not just the options menus, but also in the tutorials and other places. The trickiest part by far was implementing a way for the UI to listen to what new controller button was being pressed. That is, it was somewhat tricky to troubleshoot due to the race conditions that would often occur because a left mouse click or the confirmation button would share the same input as the jump button. Luckily, I managed to get it working in the end, until it broke again. See, when testing with a keyboard and mouse, I initially tried listening into all keys, but it turns out that when you try to query Unity's old input system with an input it doesn't expect, not only does it go very wrong, but you quickly realize the importance of having a way to reset controls to their default. With that implemented, I had made my peace with the fact that, for the time being, the player could only swap buttons or keys with other prefigured buttons or keys. Better than nothing, I suppose. Or rather, a problem for future me to tackle one day. Maybe. Confident this was working damn near perfectly, I made a new build, uploaded to Google Drive, and began recording for the new dev log until I spotted something very wrong. Aside from forgetting to unsubscribe to scripts upon being destroyed, which I could fix easily, I found that when buttons were assigned to the left or right triggers, they would not work because they required me to call getAxis rather than getButton. It looked like my seemingly simple find and replace of magic strings earlier was now going to get a bit complicated. That is, I would also need to query if the left or right triggers were assigned to a given button and adjust my conditional statements accordingly. To make matters even more complicated, anytime I previously called getButtonDown or getButtonUp, I now needed to assign a new float to whatever getAxis was after the fact. This is so I could maintain the same functionality as before, where there would be only a single frame where getAxis would exceed a threshold and the other float wouldn't. In short, it's not very pretty, but if I never have to look at it again, then all that matters is that it works. Now that button remapping has been implemented, I hope more and more people can enjoy my game and play it in a way that best suits their preferences, especially with Sage fast approaching. That being said, I still don't have a PS5 controller to test with, and I imagine there are still issues to be tackled. If you encounter any bugs, glitches, or other issues, please feel free to let me know or post something in the Discord.